empathy and
Love.
Can somebody of a different beliefs, value system, ideology, background achieve empathy?
We are all what we have. We should be more kind to each other and not only others but also ourselves. Einen schönen guten Tag. Today is the 26th of February 2022 and it is a Saturday. At the moment it's 15 hours 21 minutes in Singapore. This is your host Henri and the other host Mike. How are you, Mike? How's the week going?
It's okay. Doing pretty fine this week. How about yours?
My week is perfect. So I've been back to Singapore for 3 weeks so far and I'm really enjoying every moment. You know, the sunshine, the food is fantastic, and I'm spending time with you and mom at the same time. I think I'm having a great time so far. So this week, what are your highlights?
I think this week for me, key things revolve around the topic about health, specifically about exercise, working out. And on another front, on the global affair, it's more about what's happening between Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So I think the word this week for me very much likely is going to be empathy.
Empathy.
Point about empathy is that some part of this war, when I first read on the news, is that it pains me. Definitely pains me, because a lot of times you want to be peaceful, right? And right now what we are witnessing is two different ideologies working against each other. And they're trying to fight for what they believe in is the best for their nations and their people. Can't really quite say that one party is in the wrong or what. It depends on which lens you put on or which perspective you're looking at. But the reason why I say I empathize with that is because when you see images of families separating because of such war that's happening in your country and one has to defend while the kids sent away to other nearby countries like Poland, Hungary and all that. The separation of family is something that I kind of connect with it a lot. Because like from our younger days when we first moved to Singapore, we kind of felt the separation with the families. But right now, this is because of war and safety, you have to go away and you're not even sure whether your family is able to return. So that part pains me a lot and I feel very much for them. So that's the part about empathy for me this week.
I mean, it's a very interesting thought, I would say. I mean, empathy, not only from our global current affair, what's happening around the world, especially between Russia and Ukraine at the moment. I mean, I do feel like empathy towards people there because I do have some friends who has Ukraine background and whose family actually still stuck in different parts of the country. And then also on the other hand, I have Russian friends who do not like to be in that situation. It's a very awkward situation. So in a way, that just make people, not only if you're from either Ukraine or Russia, but it makes people outside, looking at it, feeling very, it's just not a nice thing to look through. And then people are dying and people are going through this hardship and then families separating. I remember seeing so many little clips, like the father bidding farewell to his daughter because they basically have to flee towards the western part of Ukraine and perhaps go through the border to Poland or some other part of European Union for safety reason. And then the father will be heading back to the front line to defend his country. I think to some extent that's very admirable, but at the same time when you see the farewell between the family, and that's so heartbreaking, like no one should really separate a family like this because it is just not nice. And as human beings, we should really be nice to each other and then be kind. We are all what we have. Yes, I do understand that we have different ideologies, we all grow in different background and we all have different beliefs. But I'm sure that through conversation, we can come to certain point. For certain people, it is very important for them to get certain ideology right, and by enforcing that to people's life, and that's something that I do not agree with. You got what I mean? It is just disheartening to see what's happening at the moment. I just think that everyone has their own interest there, no doubt. But how about the human dignity it's just not really respected at all. And then there's so many problems being created at the moment because obviously all of a sudden overnight there are more refugees. People are being taken away from their normal daily life and they are fleeing their country, which is in war right now. So I was just reading the German news this morning. Poland, for instance, already started a website. They have information that if you're crossing over from Ukraine to Poland, you're very welcome. And then you should do following they'll provide a shelter for you to sleep on, who you should contact, and then things like this. Sometimes I just feel like the situation is so complex, you don't really know what to do. But I do think that down to the individual level, we can always do something. You're in this situation, what do you think you could extend your help?
I think from a ground up way of looking at it, it's very much of what a civic movement is going to be. So from things like donation, right? Of course, there's a huge debate about donation, whether the money that's being raised are really going towards the main purpose.
The target funds.
Yes, exactly. So that part, it's definitely complicated. But the act of donation as part of the civic movement, I think that's one we can do.
Yeah.
Raising awareness, letting people know through various means, medium like social medias, news. You can really help to raise awareness for the people, be it whether you are in Europe, European Union, or whether in faraway places from Europe like Asia Pacific or even Americas.
I do agree that through education, you can look into the matter more. But the thing is, every single country around the world, they have that different narrative out there. Exactly. With a certain issue, like a war, for instance. Yeah. Different countries, they look at it differently. They have their own version of the whole historic moments there. So in the sense that when that is being passed on to the next generation, how is the next generation going to react to it? Because in this case, if you do receive different version of the whole story, isn't that when the kids grow up, they will have different beliefs as well. So in the end, we're coming back to the same situation again. Because people just grow up with different ideology, and that makes them different, you see. But I'm just saying, but down to the human level, we can still install and then educate this empathy within us. I think that's the most important thing, the soft skill there. You see, not only through the education system, but also through your whole family growing up value.
Can somebody of a different beliefs, value system, ideology, background achieve empathy?
The question is how do you define empathy?
Good one. Right. Very much whether you are able to put yourself in a situation and feel for them. And not so much about pity where you think they are...
That's sympathy.
Yeah, sympathy. Yeah, it's not so much. I think it's one level in terms of engagement. It's one level further. One step further from sympathy.
I think empathy and sympathy is the difference there. Empathy is in German called Mitgefühl, which means that you are feeling with the person, which is what you just described. You're putting yourself in the shoes of the other and feeling what he or she's going through, and that's called empathy. And that's more like the inbound. So it can definitely be influence of your education system or where you grow up. In terms of your family, what are the values that they taught you. But it can also be influenced by what you encountered through life, your experiences. But I think largely it's also due to the culture that you are in as well. I think in terms of Western and Eastern culture is more of the I, individualistic is very prominent in that case. But from the Asian society, the Eastern society, the community or collectivism is more in priority. So which means that if you put a whole community as a priority there first, it means that you're more likely to think for the other people before yourself.
Okay, so what you're saying is this, the West versus the East, there's this individualism versus collectivism, right?
Okay, let's put it aside. So I think we talked enough about this whole current affair. So you're talking about your CrossFit experience. Do you think you'll continue that?
Yeah, I've only been doing this a week, so I would go on to try it out. No point on trying out for 4 days, in fact, that I've done this week.
Yeah, and one yoga class.
That's too little, really. You need more. Do
you think that you'll continue this routine?
I think I will.
But what's the motivation behind that? Why do you want to do that?
I think a few things that really triggered me to step into this. The first thing is, over the last couple of years, I could see that my health in general, right, it's not very bad, but it's deteriorating. You know, maybe it's not a good word to use, but generally you can feel that your energy is not as high, and then you feel tired, and you don't feel too healthy, too good about it. I really became rounder.
Your face
It became rounder. And then, you know, I have this weighing scale at home that kind of track your weight.
Do you do that every day?
I don't do it anymore, you know, because
I won't have the courage to do that every day though. It's so scary.
I don't do that every day. I don't record it actively, but I still step on it to take a look.
Right.
So there was this, because it's a smart scale, so there's data, right?
Right.
So I remember when I first went in and I took a screenshot of it, I think that was at the start of 2020, I was 70 odd, and right now I went at 80.
Yeah.
And that's only in 2 years in terms of, so then you sit down and think, oh my, what has happened to me? The increase in weight, you know, it's not due to muscle gain. It's due to your unhealthy eating habit and your routine.
Why is that so?
I think the focus in life for the last 2 years, pandemic is one thing, you know, that creates a lot of mental stress on yourself. You can't really go out a lot. So, okay, I do stick to exercise routine, but it's just running, a little bit of swimming.
So here we're talking about comfort, your comfort zone, and also your habits.
I think it's not so much about comfort zone, it's more about habit. That's when I realized that, okay, so two different things, you know. If you actually purposefully curate this habit to really become a habit, then they will stick with you. Rather than, oh, I want to lose weight. Then maybe it's episodic thing, maybe a month or 2 or 3, or maybe a 6 months, okay, that's it. Then you stop. You know, like give yourself a target, or right now I'm 80, I want to lose to 75, okay, when I reach 75, okay, that's it. But if you look at, take a step back, and then you compare to before, do I still want to be there? I'm a little bit older now, so I think my metabolism will drop further. So the only way for me to keep my body active is to go out and do something about it. Not like, oh, one day, 1 week I run maybe 3 times, and then out of the 3 times, maybe one day I work until very late, and forget it. So in the end, I only run twice. But if you have something that, a community that you can stick to.
So build into your routine, basically.
Become your routine. Then that forms part of your life rather than an external thing, you know.
I think that's something I really like about CrossFit in that case. You know, I tried different sports since young. And I mean, I go through phases, like certain group sports that I do. I used to do like body pump a lot, and I was doing like weightlifting by myself, and then I was doing different kind of classes here and there. But then one really good thing about CrossFit I like is the community. When I was doing that in Berlin, I really enjoyed the team training with people. I train 5 days a week, right? So to some extent, that's a very good relaxation for me, especially after the whole day of work. And I'm always looking forward to go to CrossFit, because it's just like not only can I get a very good workout for my body to sweat it out, but at the same time also the training with the people there, you know, you kind of form a very good community bond there. You kind of encourage each other. So that's something I really like about it. But of course, also need to be careful of what I can do and listen to my body. That's my biggest challenge always, because I always thought that I can do more, because there's certain kind of body shape I want to achieve, and there's certain type of flexibility I want to achieve. So that's why I thought the more I do it, the better I'll become. But then when I don't listen to my body, I get a lot of injury. So that's my challenge nowadays, that I do get injured very often compared to my younger days. So I need to be more careful and listen to my body. Like if today I don't feel that my body is not feeling well and not feeling right, then I don't do it. I just take a day off. It's okay. You know, I don't have to stress myself every single day that, hey, today I need to go and do this. No. So I think it's also like really listen to your body and then what that day you need. But these are the things that you shouldn't do too often. Tomorrow I'm not in the mood, I shouldn't do that, you know. But you should really, you know, maybe 1 or 2 days off is fine, but afterwards you get back to it. And that's one good thing about community, because we always write to each other, are you coming for training today? So you have less excuse of doing, you know, of
it's
not
kind
going.
Accountability
Part, yeah. And something about yoga I really like is that it really not only does it train your physics part, but at the same time also train your mind. Sometimes I really like to go to yoga because it quiets down my mind. Once I'm in those posture, those yoga poses, I get more and more tired. Then that's when my mind will start to calm down more and more because your physical body is already very tired. So then you concentrate more on your mind.
Your inner self.
Exactly, yeah. And that's something I really like about it.
For me, about this CrossFit and yoga and the question you posted to me, whether I will continue. One main thing I was really thinking about, rather one factor is, I used to come from racket sports, tennis, badminton, squash, this kind. So it was already a team event to some extent. It's a individual sport, yes, but it can also be a team event. That's where I started. It's a bit of like a self-challenge kind of thing, personal challenge where you try to, of course, outbeat your opponent, but at the same time, you need to keep pushing yourself. But in doing that, it's very difficult to adjust the intensity because in order for you to outperform the person on court, you have to be strategically better or physically better. On skill-wise, you need to be better. It's hard to adjust, right? Because there's some level of comparison in order for you to push yourself to win. But when it comes to CrossFit and comes from yoga, I've only done it for 1 week. But I do realize that the intensity, you are able to adjust based on your body composition. Why do I say that? Because on the first day when I went, I did all the barbell kind of thing, so I was fresh. Definitely have strength. And then we go to the second day, I was like, oh my god, your body basically started to cramp. Your muscle feel tight. And then the third day when I went for yoga, it's a little bit more stretchy, but it focuses a lot on core and flexibility, which I don't have. So I actually put in a lot of effort. But what I realized is that when you talk and tell your instructor about your body condition, they understand. And then they will tell you, it's fine, Mike. I will adjust to your need for the exercise that we're going to do today. And I think that it's great because you can then adjust the intensity based on body condition. Whereas compared to my racket game, badminton, squash, or tennis, you can't.
I think both what you're talking about also something to do with ego as well. Why do you want to be better than your peers in badminton? Why do you do the body adjustments or the exercise adjustment to suit your body needs? Because the thing about it is that even in CrossFit or yoga, there's also a lot of egos there because people who go there, sometimes they're very alpha, they're very competitive, they want to do something better, they want to have more weights, they want to be more flexible, right? But often because of that, you injure yourself. When you put a lot of people in the same environment, it often that is become very competitive. But then that's when you got to draw a line and say, why are you here for? What are you here for? So that's when you really need to listen to yourself, to your body. What do I need today? Because the ego always telling you that I can do so much more. I can put another 5 or another 10 kg on my barbell. I can definitely lift this up. I can definitely do another sport and stuff like this. Yes, you can push yourself, but at the expense of what? Your injury, your body injury. So there's something to do with ego. And I think that's everyone should work on it, you see. That to be very clear at that precise moment, why do you think like this?
That's a good point about this entire ego thing.
So do you think at the end of this episode, our very first episode of What's Your Word, you started off the episode by saying empathy. Do you change that after the whole conversation?
I think it still remains. It's
empathy.
The word for this week. Empathy that cut across what's happening in the European side of things, and as well as my personal experience for CrossFit this week. I think that remains to be the same. How about yours?
I still stick to love, the generic term, because I just think that we should be more kind to each other and not only others but also ourselves. And that can also apply to CrossFit and yoga, because you do have to listen and be kind to your bodies to know exactly where your limits are and what you can do on that front. And then with regards to the current affairs happening between Ukraine and Russia, I just thought that we kind of big love, basically we're talking about, more understanding, more empathy towards each other. So you have a better understanding what's going on.
So can I say that your love is really the macro and micro love? Macro, big love for the general humanity, and then small love, for basically self-love.
Yeah, definitely. Having self-love is important, and we often overlook that. Okay. With that, we're wrapping up with this episode, and thank you very much for listening of this very first episode of What's Your Words? And this is yours sincerely, signing off from Henri and
Mike.
Okay, we'll see you next week. Ciao,
See you
ciao.
next week. Bye.